The mid-1920s had been a period of surging prosperity, particularly in America's cities. The most striking indicator of the boom was the New York Stock Exchange, where share values increased 15-fold between 1923 and 1929. By the time Hoover took office, some commentators were warning that the market had become overheated, fueled by the easy credit policies of the Federal Reserve banks. But few took any notice. The bubble finally burst at the end of October 1929, when a week of panic selling cut the value of the market by 1/3. On the 29th, 16 million shares changed hands, a record that stood for nearly 40 years. In itself, the stock market crash of October 1929 wasn't decisive. The vastly inflated share prices were ripe for correction. In any case, only about 1% of the population owned securities in 1929. But millions of Americans had come to see the stock market as a barometer for the economy as a whole. With the future economic climate uncertain, they started to cut back on spending. All through the 1920s, the growth area had been consumer goods, fridges, radios, above all, cars. By 1929, there was almost one car for every household. What's more, these goods had been bought on credit, with companies like General Motors developing easy installment plans at high rates of interest. So when debt-ridden Americans started tightening their belts in the winter of 1929, there was a massive knock-on effect throughout the economy. Workers without jobs, farmers on slashed incomes, these people could no longer keep up on their interest payments for goods or for mortgages. 20% of America's banks closed their doors. Millions of Americans lost most of their savings. In the past, middle-class Americans had looked down on the poor. Now, millions of the middle class found themselves workless and then homeless when they failed to keep up their mortgage payments and the bank repossessed their house. President Hoover wasn't completely bereft of ideas. He persuaded Congress to allocate some federal funds to underwrite the banks and to finance work relief projects. But this was too little, too late. The president was immortalised in the Hoovervilles, the shanty towns for the homeless that grew up around major cities. When a leader's name becomes a synonym for a slum, you know his political credibility has hit rock bottom.